Good afternoon. I'm Steve Hensley. We're doing Mountain News at 5 today. Another Black Lives Matter protest is underway at this hour in Harlan. It started about an hour ago. Let's check in with WYNT's Will Puckett. He's live in Harlan with the latest. Will?
Steve, good afternoon. I'm along US 421, the bypass here in Harlan that goes straight past the downtown of Harlan. I'm going to step out of the way so you can see a group of about 100 people strong holding signs that read things like defend black life and a riot is the language of the unheard, hashtag Black Lives Matter. It's just a sign of solidarity with the African American community. We see movements all across the country, and yesterday we saw two more in eastern Kentucky in Pikeville and Paintsville. Bree Carr is the young woman who put this on. She said that she had it on her heart to do something here in eastern Kentucky to show that an area that has a stereotype that we don't listen to the outside world is listening to the people who go through things every single day that many of us can't imagine. Steve, she was so passionate about her cause, she stopped people in Walmart and asked them to come out today. She said she's received threats, but it shows that it's even more important to come out here. While we were still staying with the governor, a Kentucky state trooper rolled past this group of about 100 people with his windows down. We couldn't hear what the state trooper said, but the group responded with, "Thank you." It shows that people in eastern Kentucky are paying attention, Steve, and it's much bigger than we ever imagined. I'll send it back to you.
Will, thank you very much, and certainly good to see all the protests so far in eastern Kentucky have been peaceful, and we're also hearing of another one being organized for Saturday night here in downtown Hazard. Well, officers with the Louisville Metro Police Department released new surveillance video earlier today that they said shows David McAtee firing a gun first before law enforcement officers killed him. Now, warning, this video may be graphic to some viewers. Two videos were released, one from McAtee's Yaya Barbecue Shack and another from an adjacent business. LMPD Interim Chief Rob Schroeder said the investigation into Monday's shooting is still in the early stages and that many questions remain unanswered. And Governor Beshear reemphasized that just a few minutes ago. Now, LMPD and National Guard officers were called near McAtee's business, apparently to disperse a crowd. Police say when officers arrived, someone fired a shot at them. Officers returned fire and killed McAtee. And again, some new information coming out from Governor Beshear's news conference in the last hour that McAtee died of a single gunshot wound to the chest, but officers fired 18 times during all of this. And the governor also said he is reducing the National Guard presence in Louisville. I believe last night was the fifth night of unrest, but actually last night was not as bad as some of the previous nights. Obviously, it was 2 nights ago when the shooting happened and David McAtee was killed. A man was arrested last night in Lexington at a protest police say stayed mostly peaceful. Police say 19-year-old Colbert Wilson jumped on top of a police cruiser and urged other protesters to flip it with the officer still inside. Police say he was also seen breaking a car window, forcefully removing the driver and punching them in the head. Wilson faces a long list of charges, including assault and inciting a riot. He was taken to the Fayette County Detention Center. The state of Minnesota filed a civil rights charge against the Minneapolis Police Department following the death of George Floyd. That development comes as protesters continue to take to the streets in cities across the country calling for justice. Demonstrations turned violent for another night last night despite curfews put in place in many cities. Now those curfews are moving up in some areas. CBS's Skylar Henry reports from Minneapolis.
From coast to coast, police are taking a knee, joining protesters calling for justice for George Floyd. The scene was a far cry from the chaos erupting in cities across the country last night. Police used tear gas to break up crowds in Oakland and Philadelphia. In New York City, officials are moving their curfew up to 8 p.m. tonight to combat looting and other criminal acts the city's mayor blamed on small groups. An NYPD sergeant was also struck by a hit-and-run driver in the Bronx.
I believe the mayor underestimates the scope of the problem, and I don't think they've used enough police to address the situation.
Here in Minnesota, protesters staged a sit-down strike reminiscent of demonstrations that took place in the civil rights era.
We're seeing America for what it really is. A lot of people supposed to protect and serve, and they're really just causing pain.
Please take a seat.
In the city where Floyd was killed, demonstrators also held a moment of silence as these artists got to work on another mural in his honor.
We're saying with this mural that we're in solidarity with specifically George Floyd and his family, but also more broadly with the African American community.
A memorial service for Floyd is scheduled for this Thursday at North Central University in the city. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Minneapolis.
Members of Floyd's family are expected to join protesters today in downtown Houston, Floyd's hometown, for a march to City Hall. In the midst of the protests and riots, Bourbon County head coach David Jones is doing what he can to help. A Belfry graduate and former Phelps head coach, Jones has called for coaches to come together on social media regardless of race. The coach wants to have representation for the minority head coaches in the Commonwealth.
I put out a post how it's very important for us coaches as a whole, you know, not only your minority coaches, but your coaches as a whole, but more importantly for us minority coaches, you know, we have a zero voice out there right now in the coaching world.
Jones says that the only organization he knows of for minority head coaches is in Georgia.
Once again today, it's been a pretty nice and gorgeous day here in the mountains, just a little bit on the warmer side and a little bit humid out there. We're going to take you up to just a few of those cameras though. As we look over into Whitesburg, you can see plenty of sunshine, really not a cloud in the sky, maybe a few of those stray clouds, but overall looking pretty nice out there. Looking over into Jackson, sunshine over there, 87 degrees, feeling closer to 88, so not too bad out there. That dew point of 64 though might make it feel a little bit on the muggy side. A lot of us into about those mid to upper 80s right now. 84 in Prestonsburg and Harlan, 87 over in Jackson, and of course here in Hazard, 85 down into London, 83 over into parts of Middlesboro. And checking out those dew points, something we're going to have to watch heading into the next couple of days. It looks like we'll be into about the low to kind of mid 60s right now, so kind of in that getting sticky to uncomfortable phase, and we're going to see those dew points be a little bit on the higher side heading into the next couple of days. So more sunshine those in store heading into your weekend, or into your Wednesday. Wish it was the weekend. It's going to be pretty hot and humid heading into the next couple of days, and we'll also see a few scattered showers and storms by the end of the week. I'll have a look at the full 7-day forecast coming up in a little bit.
All right, Paige, thank you very much. This weekend, a Johnson County teen was involved in a crash that sent him to the hospital, leaving his family and community praying for his recovery. WYMT's Buddy Forbes is at Johnson Central, where a small community rally was planned in his honor.
On Friday, the class of 2020 is filling this football field with cars for the Johnson Central drive-through graduation. But though there will be hundreds of people on site for the graduation, they say one person's absence will be felt. Austin Wilder was hurt Sunday night when he fell from a truck while hanging out with some friends. He has since been in the hospital in serious condition. So his family and friends poured out to Johnson Central today with signs, gathering together to encourage the community to lift his family in prayer as they rally behind his recovery.
These kids at Johnson Central, I'm telling you, they're the best kids in the world. Like, they come together when anything happens. They're so super supportive of each other. They love their school and they love their friends, and it didn't surprise me.
The school's
We got out of that a little early. That was Buddy Forbes reporting. We will have more from Wilder's family and friends coming up later tonight. A man is behind bars in Laurel County after police say he started a knife fight with an ex-girlfriend. This is 37-year-old Darren Barrett. Deputies were called to apartments off American Greeting Card Road about a knife fight between a man and a woman. Police say the woman suffered injuries to her foot, hand, and abdomen. She was flown to UK Hospital in Lexington. Investigators believe Barrett stabbed the woman after she and a friend tried to retrieve her clothing from Barrett. The woman defended herself with a kitchen knife. Barrett was taken to a hospital in Corbin and upon his release was booked into the Laurel County Detention Center. 2 police officers and 1 suspect are in a Virginia hospital following a shooting this morning. It happened in the city of Richmond. Officers were investigating a report of a party. When they arrived, police say there was gunfire. 2 Richmond Police Department officers were shot, along with 1 suspect. All 3 were taken to the hospital. Efforts to get people to fill out the 2020 U.S. Census continue. The survey, which takes place, of course, every 10 years, helps determine how federal funding will be distributed. Helene Longton, a census media specialist, says many people in eastern Kentucky should receive a paper form by the end of this week or beginning of next week.
Those paper forms will enable people who either don't get the U.S. mail at home or may not have access to broadband to fill out the census. And as I mentioned, it's one of the most important things that you can do.
You can fill out the census through the mail, on the phone, or online. The last day you can fill it out is October 31st, and lots of counties in eastern Kentucky still have pretty low numbers. Air travel started bouncing back in May, although it is still nowhere near pre-pandemic levels. The number of people going through airport security checkpoints nearly doubled last month. The Transportation Security Administration says it screened nearly 949,000 passengers this last weekend. That compares to 476,000 people during the first weekend in May. While the increases are significant, the pandemic dealt an unprecedented blow to the airline industry. On the busiest day in May, only 14% of travelers flew compared to the equivalent day in 2019. Even though hurricane season just started yesterday, we already have our 3rd tropical storm. The latest is Tropical Storm Cristobal. It is threatening to bring deadly flooding in parts of southern Mexico and Central America. It's too early to say where it might affect the U.S. Florida is trying its best to prepare for the worst. However, the coronavirus pandemic is complicating nearly every aspect of disaster planning.
We've been telling them for so long now that you're safer at home, don't congregate, stay away from each other, but now you're going to be safer with us for a hurricane.
Despite Florida trying to follow social distancing rules, the state is urging people to seek cover in shelters if it gets to that point. Have you seen Netflix's docuseries Tiger King? If you have, then you know who Carole Baskin and Joe Exotic are. Baskin won a major victory in court against her nemesis, Joe Exotic, yesterday. In Joe Exotic's worst nightmare scenario, Baskin is now the owner of his infamous animal park. An Oklahoma judge ruled in favor of Baskin's Big Cat Rescue Corporation in its lawsuit against Joe Exotic's zoo. The court is giving Baskin control of the 16-acre animal park in Garvin County, Oklahoma, with its array of big cats. Joe Exotic remains in prison for his attempt to hire a hitman to kill Baskin. Straight ahead on Mountain News at 5, people across the nation are remembering the life of George Floyd through art.
And sunshine continues tomorrow, but we'll add a few more scattered showers and storms by the end of the week. I'll have those details coming up.